After I bought a new car, my husband's mother took my keys and said, "This suits me better. You can drive my old one." My husband chuckled, "She's just joking." But when she drove off, I took out my spare key and made a call. The next time she tried to start the car, she learned a very expensive lesson. I never thought buying a new car would lead to such a mess. Living just outside Chicago, my husband, Mark, and I had been saving for years. Finally, I got myself a sleek, midnight blue sedan. It felt like a reward for all our hard work. The day I brought it home, I was over the moon. Mark seemed happy for me, sharing in my excitement. But his mother, Barbara, had a different reaction. She's always been the type to insert herself into our lives, but I never expected what came next. Barbara came over for dinner that evening. The moment she saw the new car in the driveway, her eyes lit up with a mix of envy and desire. Throughout dinner, she couldn't stop commenting on how the car's color suited her, how it matched her style, and how she'd been thinking of getting a new car herself. I smiled politely, not thinking much of it at the time. After dinner, as I was clearing the table, Barbara picked up my car keys from the counter. She dangled them in front of me with a sly smile and said, "This suits me better. You can drive my old one." I was taken aback, unsure if she was joking. Before I could respond, Mark chuckled nervously and said, "She's just joking." But Barbara's expression didn't change. She walked out the front door, got into my car, and drove off. I stood there in shock. Mark tried to reassure me, saying she'd bring it back soon, but I wasn't convinced. I had a sinking feeling this was more than just a misunderstanding. Thankfully, I had anticipated something like this might happen, given Barbara's history of overstepping boundaries. I had a spare key hidden away. I retrieved it and immediately called the police to report the unauthorized use of my vehicle. They advised me to wait and see if she returned it before taking further action. The next morning, Barbara called Mark, feigning ignorance. She claimed she had taken the car for a spin and decided to keep it for a few days to see if she liked it. I was livid. I decided it was time to teach her a lesson. Using the car's GPS tracking system, I located it parked outside Barbara's house. I drove Mark's car to her place, used my spare key to unlock my car, and drove it back home. I then parked it in our garage and locked it securely. When Barbara realized the car was gone, she called Mark in a fury, accusing me of stealing her car. Mark tried to mediate, but I stood firm. I told him that if she couldn't respect our property and boundaries, there would be consequences. Barbara showed up at our house later that day, demanding the car back. I calmly told her that the car belonged to me and that her behavior was unacceptable. She threw a tantrum, but I didn't budge. I warned her that if she ever tried something like this again, I wouldn't hesitate to involve the authorities. This incident caused a significant rift in our family dynamics. Mark was caught in the middle, but he eventually understood my perspective and supported me. Barbara, on the other hand, remained resentful, but she never attempted to take my car or anything else again. This experience taught me the importance of setting clear boundaries and standing up for myself, even when it's uncomfortable. Family ties are important, but respect and trust are paramount. She didn't take it well. After storming out of our house red in the face, Barbara didn't speak to me for a week. I thought that might have been the end of it. Maybe I'd finally scared her off. But then came the retaliation. It started small, annoying, petty. The first thing she did was call Mark every day. Morning, lunch break, and right before bed. "Just checking in," she'd say, but the conversations always twisted back to the car. She overreacted. She humiliated me. "You're letting her disrespect your own mother." She was trying to get into his head. I knew it. And Mark didn't see it at first. Then one morning I went outside, and I noticed something weird. The mirror on the passenger side was bent inward. I didn't remember hitting anything, and I definitely didn't park too close. I brushed it off. But the next day, there were light scratches along the side of the car door. Like someone dragged a key. My stomach sank. I didn't have proof. But I knew. I knew it was her. Mark tried to say it was probably some kid in the neighborhood or a random incident. He told me not to jump to conclusions. So I set up a camera. Just a basic one pointing at the driveway. For nights later, I caught her. Around 2:13 a.m. Clear as day. Barbara in her fleece bathrobe and sneakers, sneaking around our driveway like some wannabe ninja. She walked right up to my car, looked over her shoulder, and pressed something sharp into the paint. Calm, like she was buttering toast. I didn't show Mark the footage right away. I wasn't ready for that fight. Instead, I made a copy. I also added another camera. A few days later, Barbara left a voicemail on our landline. I still have it saved. Her voice was smooth, sweet. You know, Mark's old truck is getting up there in miles. It wouldn't be fair if he had to keep driving that clunker. You could let him use your car during the week. It's not like you need it all the time. She didn't even ask me. She called the house trying to plant seeds again, using Mark like a puppet. That night, I sat down and showed him the video. His face went blank. He watched it twice, rubbing the back of his neck like he wanted to disappear. I don't know what to say, he muttered. You do know, I told him. You just didn't want to see it. The next day, Mark confronted her. She screamed at him on the front lawn like we were guests on some reality show. Neighbors peeked out windows. She cried, accused me of turning him against her, said I was a controlling witch. Said I was manipulating her son. That would have been enough drama for a year. But Barbara wasn't finished. She filed a police report. Claimed I'd stolen something from her. An old heirloom ring she'd let me try on months ago, something I gave back, by the way. I thought it was a joke at first. But she really went down to the station and filed it. I was stunned. The detective who showed up at our house was polite but skeptical. He asked a few questions, looked around, made some notes. No warrant, no charges. Just routine. But it was humiliating. Mark was done after that. He told her she needed to stop. He told her she wasn't welcome at the house until she apologized. She didn't. Instead, she sent letters. Long, rambling, bitter ones. She mailed one to Mark at work. She slipped one under our door. But none of that was the worst part. 3 weeks later, we came home from a weekend trip, just a short drive out to Wisconsin to see friends. When we pulled into the driveway, something felt wrong. I couldn't say why. The house was fine. The door was locked. The windows intact. It wasn't until I opened the garage door that I froze. My car was gone. Mark thought maybe I'd moved it. I hadn't. I pulled out my phone, opened the GPS tracker. It was parked, get this, at a mechanic shop across town. Not in her name. But I recognized the address. It was a place Barbara's cousin owned. A quiet little family-run auto repair spot that always offered deals to her friends. I didn't even get angry. I got cold. I made 2 phone calls. One to the police. One to a lawyer. Because Barbara had just made her biggest mistake. And I was done playing nice. The police were polite again. But this time they took it more seriously. The fact that I had GPS evidence, footage of Barbara sneaking around our house before, and a recent incident report gave them enough to visit the shop. Mark's cousin tried to brush it off, said it was a favor, that Barbara had mentioned the car was hers and needed some cosmetic work. But there was no work order, no signature, and the security footage from his garage showed Barbara being dropped off in an Uber and using my spare key. I was furious, but something about it didn't add up. Why that shop? Why now? The answer came when I checked the car after it was towed back home. There were new wires under the dashboard. Messy, hidden behind the panels. My stomach dropped. I took it to a different mechanic, one I trusted. He looked it over and confirmed what I feared. Someone had tried to install a GPS blocker and a second remote starter unit. The kind you could control from another phone. I asked him straight up, could this be used to take over the car? He nodded. Not only that, he said, if this was done right, they could shut off the car while you're driving. That broke me. Barbara wasn't just being petty anymore. She was dangerous. Mark sat in the shop with me, pale and silent. He didn't even argue anymore. He knew. We were past excuses now. We made a report. The police took the mechanic statement, my dashcam logs, and photos. They even opened a formal case. Still, no arrest yet. Just investigation. Then something even more insane happened. A few nights later, Mark's brother Todd called us. We hadn't heard from him in months. He usually avoided family drama. But he said, "Hey, I don't want to get involved, but Mom's been telling people some wild stuff." Apparently, Barbara had been telling relatives that I had a drinking problem, that I'd crashed the car before, that I was emotionally abusive to Mark and had isolated him from his family. She had spread it to her church group, the neighbors on her block, even mutual friends on Facebook. I saw one post that said, "It's so sad when you lose your son to a controlling wife. Cars are just objects, but character lasts forever." The comments were all, "So sorry, praying for you, and you're so strong, Barbara." At that point, I realized she wasn't going to stop until she ruined me. And maybe she already had a plan for that too. Because 2 days later, someone slashed my tires. I came outside on a Tuesday morning, already dreading my commute, and found the front tires of my car in ribbons. Clean cuts. Like someone knew exactly what they were doing. We filed another report. Police started circling closer, but still, no arrest. Mark's cousin lawyered up. Barbara stayed quiet. Then came the letter from the HOA. Apparently, Barbara had submitted a formal complaint to our neighborhood board saying our home was being used as a business with frequent suspicious visitors. She accused us of running an illegal side hustle, even claimed she had proof. The HOA requested a formal review. I had to take time off work just to attend a ridiculous meeting about her nonsense accusations. Mark was shaking with anger. He'd always tried to keep peace, to avoid choosing sides. But she was dragging him down too now. That weekend, he drove to her house. Alone. I begged him not to, but he said he needed closure. He came back an hour later. Quiet. Pale. Hands shaking. I asked what happened. He said Barbara told him, flat out, that she'd rather destroy us both than let me win. She used those exact words. That was the last straw. We met with a lawyer again, this time not just to file reports, but to start a restraining order. The lawyer advised a cease and desist letter first. We sent it. Certified. With documentation. But Barbara didn't stop. Instead, the next week, she filed for emergency guardianship of Mark. Claimed he was mentally unfit. I laughed when I first heard it until I realized it was real paperwork. She filed it at the county courthouse, using twisted versions of his medical records from when he had anxiety attacks years ago. She made it sound like he was out of control, that he couldn't manage his life. It was a long shot. A desperate move. But one that could have gone very wrong. We were done being quiet. And we were ready to fight. We got the emergency guardianship thrown out, fast. Mark's lawyer ripped it to shreds in court. The judge took one look at the paperwork and said it was a waste of time. Barbara didn't even show up for the hearing. She sent a lawyer instead, who looked about as thrilled to be there as we were. But the damage was already done. Mark was broken. He stopped calling her. He stopped defending her. He didn't say it out loud, but I saw it in his face. He finally realized who his mother really was. And that should have been the end. But like I said, Barbara had one more move. 3 weeks later, I was leaving work, walking toward my car, and that's when I noticed the smoke. Light, gray, coming from the front hood. At first I thought it was steam. Then it got thicker, blacker. Then the smell hit me, plastic and chemicals. I dropped everything and ran. I wasn't even close when the flames burst through the windshield. My car, fully engulfed. Right there in the parking lot. The fire department came quick. They put it out fast, thankfully. No one was hurt. But the car? Completely totaled. Melted from the inside out. The engine block cracked. Every inch burned or warped. It was arson. That's what the investigators said. Someone had poured accelerant into the air vents through the front grille and lit it up. They pulled the footage from the building's security cams. It was Barbara, caught on tape. Hood up, gloves on. Big sunglasses like that would hide her identity. She didn't even try to hide her car. pulled up like it was a grocery run. The police finally arrested her. We pressed charges for destruction of property, trespassing, harassment, and attempted fraud. Mark's cousin's garage was also fined. Turns out, they'd tampered with more than my car. They were part of a small insurance fraud ring, and Barbara had tried to claim my car under her name as stolen for the payout. Everyone involved went down. The trial took months. Barbara pled not guilty at first, then tried for a deal. She ended up with probation, community service, and a huge fine. She lost most of her retirement savings paying restitution. But I wasn't satisfied. You might think I'd be happy with that. I wasn't. Because somewhere along the way, I lost things too. Not just my car, but my peace of mind. My time. My patience. My faith in the idea that family always wants what's best for you. I wanted her to feel just a fraction of what she made me feel. So I told everyone. Every cousin. Every church member. Every neighbor she lied to. I sent copies of the court records. I uploaded clips of the driveway footage and the arson tape to a private YouTube link and shared it with anyone who ever questioned me. I sent an open letter to her HOA explaining why she was no longer welcome at block events. She went from poor sweet Barbara to what the hell is wrong with her? She had to move. Quietly. Out of state. Nobody threw her a goodbye party. But here's the part that still haunts me. Mark and I, we didn't make it. We tried. We really did. But after the fire, after the court, after all the stress, I couldn't look at him without seeing everything that had happened. And I think he couldn't look at me without feeling shame. Guilt. Like maybe on some level, it was his fault too. We drifted. Slowly, then all at once. He moved out 6 months later. We stayed friendly. No screaming. No hate. But it ended. And maybe that's the true cost of letting things go too far. Not the car. Not the money. But the things you thought would always be safe.